What's up, GameLeapers? This is EZCHALLEGER. In today's video, we're going to talk about the 10 best champions based on win rates at the moment in patch 12.15, and there were a lot of changes to the Rift in patch 12.15, so to know who the best champions to play based on, well, actually winning, which is what pretty much all of us are interested in, make sure you stick around for the whole video, and for each champion in this countdown, we'll give you the rune page, the builds, the skill order, and the summoner spells you have to run on them in order to win your games. And to master any of these champions, guys, in terms of mechanics, so in terms of the micro, but also the role you play them in, so whether it's mid, top, jungle, AD, carry, support, make sure you check out our library of content at GameLeap.com. Our website, the videos are made and created by the best players and coaches around the world, so you can become one of the best yourself. So get that exclusive access by signing up, check out the links down below, and let's get into the countdown. So we'll start by talking about Zyra as a support, and I mentioned in our 3 most broken champions video just how good Zyra is because of the new Scorch and how you can just abuse this in the bot lane. Of course, you want to be going Leandri's Anguish as your mythic item because of the burn damage. It synergizes very well with your actual plant damage. And as far as this rune page you see on your screen now, Cheap Shot is great because this will work with your E and also your ultimates knock up. We also have Treasure Hunter because Zyra is such a good team fighting champion. Getting those stacks and the extra gold from it as a support is really useful. And as for your minor runes, running a cooldown reduction shard because we want to be throwing out a lot of abilities and they should easily do enough damage, especially when we have sorcerer shoes as our boots. And then for your last 2 shards, taking some defensive options. So this could be 2 armor shards just like here. If the enemy bot lane has a lot of attack damage, it could be an armor and magic resist if they're a bit mixed, or it could just be full magic resist if you're against an AP carry and AP support. So interesting setup here for Zyra, unreal champion at the moment. If you're a support man and you're not abusing her right now, then you are trolling. Now, next champion to talk about, this one resides in the jungle, and this one is Volibear. And there haven't really been any buffs to Volibear recently. Like in the last few patches, he's kind of gone unnoticed, but he's still one of the best champs to play in the game because of his super high win rate, and one of the reasons why is because of how well Volibear synergizes with Turbo Chem Tank. Because once you get cooldown boots and then Turbo Chem Tank, your speed around the map, especially when you have your Q going, it's very hard to avoid ganks. Also in the early game from level 3 onwards, which is when you can gank of course, you can punish a lot of enemy laners' mistakes, and guess what? In the majority of elos, it's going to be easy to punish because they won't ward, they're not aware of where you might gank them from, so most of the time you're going to get a free kill after you hit the level 3 mark. Just make sure you are taking celerity and water walking, guys. The movement speed is invaluable in this champion, which is why we're going Chem Tank and Dead Man's Plate, so Volibear is another top tier champion, just like Pantheon in the mid lane. Now for Pantheon recently, again, there haven't really been many changes. I mean, there were changes to jungle Pantheon, but I'm actually talking about Pantheon in the mid lane here. And I guess maybe the recent change we might have to think about is the lethality mythics getting more movement speed, which is nice. So once you start getting more major items mid to late game, the movement speed is going to help you scale into the game a little bit more. But what we're really playing Pantheon for is the early to mid game and using your ground starful around the map. That's why we want to be taking Treasure Hunter in our runes, because Treasure Hunter, we will be roaming from the mid lane to other lanes and getting those 5 takedowns. It should be super achievable early into a game. So you'll get that gold and get the snowball going, which is really Pantheon's identity. Just make sure you're running Flash and Ignite, guys, because we want the kill pressure in the mid lane and you should be more than sweet. Now next up we have a champion with another, well, Pantheon doesn't have a global ultimate in that sense, but this champion does, and this is Shen. So for Shen in the top lane, because of the buffs in this patch, so you're getting more energy back in the late game with your Taunt, this is helping Shen scale into a game a little bit more because he does fall off in the mid to late game. But if you get snowballing early, which is really doable on Shen because you'll be running Ignite with Cheap Shot, and if your jungler comes top lane, it's more than likely just going to be a free kill. Also at the moment, there aren't really many scary top laners for Shen to go into. Good top laners like Jax, for example, he's an auto attacker. Shen does well because of his W. If we think about tank top laners, they don't really pose any threat to Shen, so most of the time you're going to have a very easy laning phase unless you're playing against maybe Darius or Teemo, something like this. But the real strength of Shen, like I said, comes in his ultimate, and also because you have so many builds. You can go the one recommended on screen now, so with Frostfire, Titanic, the HP, the damage you deal, very underrated. Also you have Redemption, which is where you go Chem Tank with Redemption and you play Ability Haze ulting Shen, so you're peeling maybe a hyper carry ADC like a Vayne. And you also have builds where you can go Demonic Embrace with Frostfire, you can go Divine Sundra if you're really snowballing and you've got a bunch of kills early on, so there's plenty of options for Shen. So he's also featuring in this video, insane champion at the moment. Now another insane champion at the moment in terms of statistics, this is Cassiopeia in the mid lane. Now why is Cass so good at the moment? Because she can't really take advantage of Scorch, but if we think about Cassiopeia, she has really good consistent damage, and because of the meta at the moment, well, fights are going to last longer because the burst damage in the game is down. It's kind of coming back a little bit, especially with some of the changes recently, but for Cass this is great, a conqueror champion, so she loves it when the fights go long. And also with Leandri's Anguish, that is when you can be a real threat. So Cassiopeia is another champion you have to think about picking. Now we're going to stay in the mid lane for the next champion, guys, and and I think this champion is honestly the best mid in the game at the moment, this being Vex. So for Vex, because of the buffs to your Q's cooldown at level 9, get this, so 5 points in your Q is on a 4-second cooldown. This is for an ability that has really good range, really good poke, great wave clear, and if you can hit your Q with your passive, like that enemy champion is going to get chunked. I also really like Vex because of her ultimate. It gives her a lot of range in a sense, so if you see your jungler jumping in, let's say, a dragon, you can ult to that fight and get there really quickly, so you can close that space, which is something that a lot of mages just can't do, so they don't have that mobility. Also, Vex has amazing priority in the mid lane, so as a jungle main, if I have a Vex mid, I'm very happy most of the time because they will have the push and the minion advantage most of the time, and it just frees up the jungler as well. And if you two can work together, deadly champion at the moment in the mid lane because of the buffs to her Q. Just make sure you copy down this rune page and you should be good. Now the next champion on the countdown is another one, a bit like Cassiopeia, who has that tick damage in his kit, and thankfully because of the buffs in 12-15, Singed is back in the top lane. So the buffs, why were they so meaningful? Well, not only did your passive bonus movement speed increase, and actually also the cooldown decrease, so in teamfights you can ramp your passive movement speed up so quickly. Also your ultimate bonus stats, they were increased for the early game, and this is where Singed was really struggling before because of all the nerfs. Now because you're getting more armor, more magic resistance, when you press your ultimate at level 6 and level 11, this means that during the early laning phase, you are a lot tankier and a lot scarier. You can actually go toe to toe with these big bruisers in the top lane like Darius, like Jax, and you can easily hold your own. Just make sure, guys, in terms of the items you build on Singed, you are trying to get your boots early, so steel caps, and you're also building a Rylai's Crystal Scepter first into Demonic Embrace, so no mythic until your 4th item. Reason being is because Rylai's, well, it's so cheap, and Demonic Embrace with Rylai's HP, it synergizes so nicely. Also, Riftmaker isn't the most amazing item for Singed because Rylai's and Demonic, as a 2-item pair, they're pretty cheap altogether. To spend a little less gold for such a good spike still, and then we get Riftmaker, or even Chem Tank, depends on what you need. So if you feel as if you're fighting the enemy top laner a lot, and you need some boost in the extended trades, Riftmaker is obviously great. If you feel as if you're going to roam around the map a little bit more, then Chem Tank is obviously a great option. But Singed is back with a vengeance in 12-15. Just make sure, guys, you are running Flash and Ghost. TP, yes, you can run it, but 2 combat summoner spells, it's going to enhance that laning phase even more and make you a very scary champion to verse in the top lane. So Singed is the 7th champion in this video. Now, who is the 8th? Well, this is another AP champion, and this is Gragas in the jungle. And you might be like, Gragas in the jungle, I want to play in mid or top lane. Well, in the jungle, because of the buffs to your cooldowns a few patches ago, Gragas is really loving life. Also, the buff to Night Harvester. This means that you have more damage. It means your mythic spike is a heck of a lot better. And even if Predator did get nerfed in the early game, it's still one of the best keystones to run, especially on jungle Gragas anyway. It's probably the only one you should run, because after you get your boots maybe on your first base, so what you can do something like blue Gromp Wolves, recall, get some boots. You have the Predator active, so you can gank a lane instantly. I'm not going to say that's going to guarantee a kill because you might sue me, but it's very close to doing so. It's almost like versing a Volibear in the jungle. Gragas is an amazing ganker, and because in lower elos, people are just going to be more stranded, more actually gankable and killable, you can really punish them. Just make sure you're maxing your Q, then your E, and then your W. And what's also interesting here, guys, is actually taking Sork shoes instead of Lucidity boots. I would just say if you have an AP mid laner, you might not want to go for the full AP route. So you can go Lucidity boots with Night Harvester, of course, but if you are the sole AP on your team, you want to hit as hard as possible. So that's when I'd recommend going Sork shoes. But Gragas, another champ to consider picking up for this patch. And another jungler who is played nowhere near as enough as he should be, this is Nunu. Now, why is Nunu so good at the moment? Well, I think Nunu's really been good since Riot buffed Barbie's Cinder. So they reduced the gold from 1100 to 1000 gold. That makes your first base, well, it's just really easy to get, like 1000 gold. A full clear with a Scuttle Crab probably gives you very close to that. So if you just get 1 kill or an assist, you've got a Barbie's Cinder. You clear camps incredibly quickly once you get this, and your ganks, because of your W, they are deadly. Nunu is also a champion who's easy to pilot. There probably isn't going to be a massive difference between a very good Nunu and an average one, so he's an excellent jungle champion to pick up in your champion pool. So I'd highly recommend abusing Nunu for the rest of 12-15. And the last champion, guys, in this video to consider picking, well, this one resides in the mid lane. And you don't really see Diana picked in the mid lane in higher elos as so much as she's picked in lower elos, but when she is picked, she has the best win rate in League of Legends. Now, why is this? Well, Diana can punish mistakes very quickly. And in the mid lane, because those champions are probably going to be immobile, especially all those mages you go against, also against melee champions, Diana does pretty well. And because the buffs, just like I mentioned for Gragas to Night Harvester, this is such a good spike for her, especially when you have Sorcerer Shoes, because you'll be getting the ability haste from Night Harvester. You can get that magic penetration you kind of need from Sorcerer Shoes and then Shadow Flame, and you are good to go. I'd probably just recommend banning Cassidon because you can never really do anything to him, and you're also a champion who can take advantage of the new Scorch. So running something like this tree right here with Mana Float Band and then Scorch, the damage you deal to the enemy champions, it's going to get them lower and lower, power. So when you hit level 6, when your ignite comes back up, bang and you go, guaranteed kills. Awesome snowbally champion. Your roams as well, you're very dangerous. So Diana, if you want to play an AP assassin, guys, she is the one to pick for 12-15. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to let us know by leaving a like down below. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so by hitting that sub button down below as well. And until our next season 12 upload, this has been a... Peace.